Georgia isn't just peaches, sweet tea, and southern charm. It's a silent graveyard of forgotten worlds. Towns that once rivaled Savannah in power and commerce. Communities that were drowned beneath lakes, burned by armies, erased by disease, and in one case, violently destroyed and then buried underwater so that an entire chapter of American history could disappear without a trace. Some of these places died slowly, drained by railroads that went somewhere else. Others were gone in a single catastrophic moment. Walking through them today, or standing above the water that covers them, you can still feel the weight of everything that was lost. Today, we're counting down 7 ghost towns in Georgia that will stop you cold. And trust me, by the time we reach number 1, you will question how an entire community could be destroyed, drowned, and then forgotten by the very country it called home. Number 7. Wrightsboro, McDuffie County. In McDuffie County, along a quiet stretch of road that most people drive past without a second glance, there is a small church and a cemetery sitting alone in the Georgia countryside. A few old headstones lean at angles beneath the trees, and the silence around them feels ancient. This is all that remains of Wrightsboro, the southernmost Quaker settlement in all of North America. No busy streets, no shops, no homes filled with light. Just a church, a graveyard, and the memory of people who came here looking for something the rest of the world wouldn't give them. Wrightsboro was founded in 1768 when Joseph Maddock and Jonathan Sell led more than 70 Quaker families from North Carolina into the Georgia wilderness, granted 40,000 acres by Georgia's royal governor Sir James Wright. The settlement grew steadily into a genuine community with homes, gristmills, a meeting house, and a newspaper called the Village Reeve. By 1775, more than 60 families lived in the town itself and 200 in the surrounding township. It was organized, peaceful, and purposeful, built not on ambition or gold, but on faith and the desire to live without interference from a world that had never understood them. But the world they had fled came looking for them anyway. The American Revolution brought violence, bandits, and murders directly to their doorstep. Then slavery spread across Georgia, and the Quakers, among its most committed opponents, found themselves increasingly unwilling to stay in a state building its entire economy on human bondage. Between 1805 and 1809, the remaining Quaker families packed everything they had and migrated to Ohio, walking away from a community they had spent 40 years building rather than make peace with what Georgia was becoming. By 1920, the town was gone entirely. The Quakers who built Wrightsboro chose conscience over comfort. The ground they left behind has been quiet ever since. Behind every abandoned street and crumbling wall was a family that called it home, a child that played there, and a life that was taken away without warning. If their stories deserve to be remembered, hit subscribe so we can keep telling them. Number 6. High Falls, Monroe County. Along the Towaliga River in Monroe County, there is a state park today where families come to hike the trails, watch the waterfalls tumble over ancient rock, and enjoy the kind of peaceful Georgia countryside that feels entirely removed from the modern world. Most of those visitors have no idea that they are walking through the footprint of a town, a genuine industrial community that once hummed with machinery, employed dozens of workers, and believed it was on the edge of something lasting. High Falls didn't die dramatically. It was simply left behind, passed over by a single decision that was made somewhere else, by someone who never set foot there. High Falls grew in the late 1800s around the power of the Towaliga River, whose falls provided the energy to run its mills and factories. By the 1870s, the town had a cotton gin, a shoe factory, a grist mill, and a collection of small businesses that kept the streets busy and the community functioning. Farmers from the surrounding countryside brought their crops into town, workers kept the factories running, and the river provided the one resource that seemed inexhaustible. It was a town built on water power, and for a time, that was enough. Then the railroads came to Monroe County, and the surveyors drew their lines somewhere else. The tracks bypassed High Falls entirely, and without a railroad connection, the factories couldn't ship their goods efficiently enough to compete. The businesses that had kept the town alive began to struggle. Jobs disappeared. Families moved toward the new railroad towns where opportunity had followed the tracks. The mills shut down. The streets went quiet. By the early 1900s, High Falls was largely abandoned, and the river that had built it kept flowing right through the ruins as if nothing had ever been there at all. Today, The waterfalls draw thousands of visitors every year. The remains of the old mills sit quietly in the gorge below. High Falls is proof that beauty and tragedy can occupy the same ground, and that progress, when it goes somewhere else, takes everything with it. Number 5. Banning Mills, Carroll County. Deep inside Snake Creek Gorge in Carroll County, hidden behind walls of stone and curtains of forest, there are ruins that most people in Georgia have never seen and will never find. The stone walls of Banning Mills rise from the gorge floor in various states of collapse, some barely standing, some already returned to rubble, while the creek moves quietly through them as if clearing a path through history. Getting here is not easy. The gorge keeps its secrets well. But for those who make the effort, Banning Mills offers something rare: the feeling of stumbling upon a place that the modern world has genuinely forgotten. At its peak, Banning Mills was one of the most productive industrial communities in western Georgia. 10 mills operated along Snake Creek, producing cotton, paper, and other goods that supported an entire network of families and businesses built around the gorge. The creek provided the power, the gorge provided the stone for construction, and the surrounding countryside provided the raw materials that kept the wheels turning. Homes, schools, and stores were built alongside the mills, and for a time, Banning Mills had the self-contained energy of a place that believed it had found its reason to exist. But Snake Creek was not a reliable partner. Floods came through the gorge with force and regularity, damaging mills, washing away buildings, and destroying in hours what workers had spent months building. Each flood left the community weaker, with fewer resources to rebuild and fewer families willing to start over. Economic hardship compounded the damage. There was never quite enough money to make the mills truly competitive, and with each passing decade, the balance tipped further against the town. By the early 1900s, Banning Mills was abandoned, and the gorge began its long, slow process of reclamation. Vines grew through broken windows. Trees split stone walls. The creek continued to carve its path through the ruins. Today, those ruins remain where they fell, moss-covered, root-cracked, and silent, waiting in a gorge that most of Georgia has forgotten exists. Number 4. Auraria, Lumpkin County. In the hills of Lumpkin County, where the land rolls and folds in ways that hide creeks and hollows from the road, there is a small cluster of old wooden buildings that look like they belong to another century. They do. Auraria was once the beating heart of America's first major gold rush, a town that appeared almost overnight when gold was discovered in these hills in 1828 and filled within months with thousands of people chasing a dream that glittered just beneath the surface of the Georgia soil. The buildings that still stand are among the last physical proof that any of it ever happened. Gold was found in Lumpkin County in 1828, and the word spread with a speed that the era barely had the technology to support. Miners came from across the country, setting up tents and rough cabins in the hills, working the creeks and riverbeds by day, and filling the saloons and gambling halls of Auraria by night. The town grew with a chaotic energy that only a gold rush can produce. Shops, hotels, and businesses materializing seemingly overnight to serve a population that had appeared just as suddenly. At its peak, Auraria was one of the most talked about places in America. Georgia's gold rush was real, it was substantial, and for a few extraordinary years, Auraria was at the center of it. But gold rushes are by nature temporary, and in 1849, California's gold fields called, and most of Auraria's miners answered. The population that had flooded in over the course of months drained away almost as quickly, leaving behind the buildings, the empty streets, and the fading evidence of a boom that had burned itself out. The town that remained was a fraction of what it had been, and it never recovered the energy of those first years. Today, Auraria exists in a state of deep quiet. A few wooden storefronts, a historic marker or two, and the hills that gave up their gold and then took everything else back. It is a place where an entire American chapter began, reached its peak, and ended, all within the span of a single generation. Number 3. Griswoldville, Jones County. In Jones County, along a stretch of road that gives no warning of what lies nearby, there is a place where the ground itself is shaped by war. Earthwork fortifications, long, low ridges of soil thrown up by men who were digging for their lives, still run through the trees at Griswoldville, preserved beneath the leaf litter and moss of 160 years. They were built in the ruins of a town that was already dying when the soldiers arrived. And the battle that was fought here, one of the most lopsided and heartbreaking engagements of the entire Civil War, was fought for ground that had already lost everything worth fighting for. Griswoldville began in the early 1800s and grew into a significant industrial center built around the manufacturing needs of the Confederacy. The town's factories produced weapons, ammunition, and textiles, the tools of a war being fought hundreds of miles away, but sustained by the labor of workers who lived and raised families here in Jones County. The town grew around its factories, with homes, stores, and schools filling in the spaces between the industrial buildings. It was a company town in the truest sense, its entire identity tied to the production that kept the Confederate armies in the field. In 1864, General William Tecumseh Sherman's army marched through Georgia on its way to Savannah, destroying everything in its path that could support the Confederate war effort. When Union troops reached Griswoldville, the factories were burned, the buildings were torn down, and the town was obliterated in a single sweep. Days later, a Confederate militia force, made up largely of old men and teenage boys, not trained soldiers, attacked a well-armed Union position near the ruins of the town. They had not been told what they were walking into. The Union troops, dug in behind rail barricades and armed with repeating rifles, cut them down in waves. The Confederates suffered over 600 casualties. The Union lost 13 men. The soldiers who survived walked back through what was left of Griswoldville carrying their dead and wounded. The town was never rebuilt. The earthworks where the Union soldiers waited still scar the land today, a quiet and permanent record of the worst afternoon in the history of a county that had already lost everything. Number 2. New Ebenezer, Effingham County. In Effingham County, about an hour south of Savannah, there is a church that has been holding services continuously since 1736. The Jerusalem Lutheran Church, a simple, beautiful brick building surrounded by a cemetery of remarkable age, is one of the oldest continuously active churches in all of North America. And it is the only thing left of New Ebenezer, a town founded by religious refugees from across the Atlantic who crossed an ocean to build something permanent in the Georgia wilderness, and whose descendants watched everything they built dissolve around the one structure that refused to fall. The church outlasted the town. It outlasted everything. And it still stands. New Ebenezer was founded in 1736 by Salzburger immigrants, Protestant refugees who had been expelled from the Catholic Archbishopric of Salzburg in Austria and offered land in Georgia by General James Oglethorpe as part of his vision for the new colony. These were people who had already lost one home for their faith. They were not going to lose another without building something that would last. They cleared the land, planted crops, established schools, and built the Jerusalem Lutheran Church, a brick building constructed with a permanence that expressed everything they believed about the future. Agriculture was the heart of New Ebenezer, and for decades the community worked and worshipped and grew with the quiet confidence of people who had found, at last, the peace they had crossed an ocean to find. But the revolution arrived and disrupted everything. British troops occupied New Ebenezer during the war, using the church as a hospital and a stable, desecrating the one building that the community had built as a monument to its faith. Trade routes collapsed. Economic hardship followed. Families who had built their lives here began to leave for places with more opportunity. By the early 1800s, much of the town had disappeared. The homes, the businesses, the schools, the structures that had made New Ebenezer a real community rather than just a church in a field. But the Jerusalem Lutheran Church kept standing and kept holding services through every decade of decline and disappearance. It stands today, surrounded by its ancient cemetery, holding services for a congregation that drives in from the surrounding region, the last living institution of a town that gave everything else up. The Salzburgers who built it wanted something that would endure. They got their wish, just not in the way they imagined. Number 1. Oscarville, Forsyth County. Beneath the surface of Lake Lanier, one of the most popular recreational lakes in Georgia, there is a town. Divers have reported seeing submerged roads, building foundations, and the outlines of a functioning community hidden in the dark water below the boats and the summer weekends of a lake that millions visit without knowing what lies underneath. But the story of Oscarville is not just the story of a town that was drowned. It is the story of a community that was first destroyed by racial violence, burned out, driven out, and terrorized out of existence, and then covered by water, as if nature itself had been recruited to finish what the mobs had started. Oscarville grew during the Reconstruction era into a genuinely prosperous African-American community in Forsyth County. Its residents, many of them formerly enslaved men and women, built farms, raised families, ran businesses, and established churches and schools. By 1911, Oscarville had approximately 1,100 residents, many of whom owned their land outright. They were carpenters, blacksmiths, bricklayers, and farmers who had built real stability in a county that was increasingly hostile to everything they had achieved. In September 1912, false accusations against black men triggered a campaign of terror across Forsyth County. Night riders burned homes, threatened families, and drove more than 1,000 black residents out of the county entirely. Many left behind their land, their livestock, and everything they had built, property that ended up in white hands without any legal transfer. Forsyth County remained effectively all white, enforced by violence, until the 1990s. Then the Buford Dam was completed, Lake Lanier rose, and the ground where Oscarville had stood disappeared underwater. Today, millions visit that lake every summer. Oscarville never got a marker. It never got an apology. It just got 40 feet of water above it, and the silence that comes after everything has been taken away. That's our countdown of 7 ghost towns in Georgia. Every single one of these places was real. Every one of them had people who believed it would last. And every one of them is gone, or buried, or burning, or underwater. If you visited any of these places, or if you carry a family connection to any of these stories, drop it in the comments below. These places deserve to be remembered. The people who lived in them deserve even more.